I am the Sleepless Bard, and tonight I weave for you a tale that has echoed through the halls of time. A story born in the sacred groves of ancient India, where the Buddha himself once walked among mortals, teaching through parables that pierce the veil between worlds. This is the tale of Vessantara, the prince who gave away everything, even his own heart's blood, to achieve the perfect flowering of compassion. Listen well, dear seeker, for in this story lies a mirror that reflects the deepest chambers of the human soul. It speaks of a love so pure it transcends the bonds of flesh, of a generosity so complete it shakes the very foundations of heaven and earth. Long ago, when the world was younger and the gods walked more freely among us, there lived a prince whose heart was as vast as the sky itself. Vessantara was his name, born under stars that sang of his destiny. From the moment he drew his first breath, the earth itself trembled with recognition, for here was a soul destined to teach the world the true meaning of sacrifice. Picture, if you will, a kingdom where golden spires touched the clouds, where gardens bloomed eternal in the shade of the sacred bow trees. Here, in the city of Jataka, Prince Vessantara grew from child to man, but never did he lose the divine spark that burned within him. While other princes collected treasures, he gave them away. While others built walls around their hearts, he tore down every barrier between himself and the suffering of the world. The prince possessed a wondrous elephant, white as moonlight on snow, whose very presence brought the rains to parched lands. This creature was more than beast. It was the living symbol of his kingdom's prosperity, the sacred guardian of his people's hopes. Yet when drought ravaged a distant land, and 8 Brahmins came with dust-covered faces and empty hands, begging for the miracle that might save their people, Vessantara's heart knew no hesitation. As easily as the sun gives its light, he bestowed upon them the elephant, the very heart of his kingdom's power. The earth shook that day, beloved listener. The gods themselves leaned forward on their celestial thrones, watching in wonder as a mortal prince chose the welfare of strangers over his own security. But the people of his land, seeing their talisman led away, rose in fury like a storm tide. "He has doomed us all," they cried. "What manner of prince gives away the guardian of his realm?" And so, with hearts heavy as lead, they demanded his banishment. But see how the truly generous heart receives even punishment as a gift. Vessantara smiled upon hearing his sentence, for he saw in exile not loss, but opportunity, the chance to perfect the art of giving without the trappings of wealth to ease the way. "I shall go," he said, his voice carrying the calm of deep waters. "But grant me one day to make the gift of 700s, 700 elephants, 700 horses, 700 chariots, 700 maidens, 700 cattle, 700 servants, male and female. Let me empty my treasury as I would empty my heart of all attachment." And so he did, until the very last coin had found its way to outstretched hands, until the final treasure had been transformed into blessings for the needy. Only then did he don the simple robes of an ascetic, taking with him his beloved wife Madhu and their 2 children, Jali, bright as sunlight, and Kanhajina, gentle as the moon. Into the great forest they went, where ancient trees whispered secrets to the wind, and every shadow held the memory of hermits who had walked this path before. Here, in a hermitage built by the gods themselves, they lived as the simplest of beings, gathering roots and fruits, sleeping on beds of grass, their only wealth the love that bound them together. For 7 months they dwelt in this paradise of poverty, and never was a family more content. The children played with flower petals as if they were precious gems, and Madhu sang lullabies that made the very trees lean down to listen. Vessantara spent his days in meditation, his heart growing ever more boundless, ever more free. But the gods, beloved one, are not content to let such souls rest in easy peace. They must test the metal of compassion in the hottest fires, must prove whether mortal love can truly transcend the bonds of flesh. There came a day when a Brahmin appeared at their hermitage, ancient, gnarled, with eyes like chips of flint. Jataka was his name, and he was driven by the cruel words of a young wife who mocked his poverty. "Bring me servants," she had demanded, "or I shall leave you for another." The Brahmin's gaze fell upon the children, and in that moment, Vessantara felt the approaching of his greatest test. For he who had given away elephants and gold, who had emptied palaces and filled the hands of strangers, now faced the ultimate question. Could he give away the very light of his eyes? "Give me your children," the Brahmin demanded, his voice like grinding stone. "Let them serve my household, that I might prove my worth to my young wife." Oh, dear listener, can you fathom the agony that tore through the prince's heart? These were not possessions to be bartered, but pieces of his very soul, walking about in small bodies that had grown beneath his protective gaze. The boy who called him father, the girl who brought him flowers each morning. How could mortal love survive such a test? Yet even as his heart bled, Vessantara knew that true compassion recognizes no boundaries, no exceptions. The Brahmin's need was real, his desperation genuine. And so, with hands that trembled like leaves in a storm, the prince poured water from his vessel, the sacred act of giving, and surrendered his children to the beggar's care. The very cosmos held its breath. The earth convulsed, mountains swayed like reeds, and in the heavens the gods themselves wept tears of wonder. Never had they witnessed such perfect generosity, such complete surrender of the ego's claims. But the testing was not yet complete. The children were barely gone when another Brahmin appeared, this one tall and radiant with eyes that held the depth of eternity. "Give me your wife," he commanded, "for she too must serve my household." Now truly was Vessantara stripped bare, asked to surrender not just his heart's treasure, but his very companion in the spiritual journey. Mad, who had shared his exile without complaint, who had gathered their meager food with songs of gratitude, how could he give away the other half of his soul? Yet once again the prince reached for his water vessel. Once again he chose the path of absolute giving. "I give and shrink not," he whispered, his voice carrying the weight of worlds. "For in gifts my heart finds its truest delight." And then, beloved seeker, the miracle revealed itself. The Brahmin's form shimmered and changed, revealing the radiant figure of Saka, king of the gods, his face bright with divine approval. "Conquered is every obstacle," Saka proclaimed, his voice like celestial music. "Both human and divine have witnessed this perfect act. The earth trembles, the heavens sing, and all who seek wisdom have found their teacher." The god-king restored Madhu to her husband's side and granted 8 boons to the prince who had proven that mortal love could indeed transcend every limitation. Meanwhile, the children, protected by divine grace, had been recognized by their grandfather, King Sanjaya, who purchased them from the Brahmin and restored them to their rightful place. Soon, a great procession wound its way through the forest, the entire kingdom come to escort their prince home. For the people had learned, through the anguish of his absence, that they had banished not just a man, but the very embodiment of their highest aspirations. When Vessantara returned to his throne, the skies opened and showered the kingdom with jewels, rubies like drops of the heart's blood, diamonds like crystallized tears of joy, pearls like the wisdom that comes only through the deepest suffering transformed into compassion. He ruled for many years thereafter, his generosity now tempered by wisdom, his kingdom prosperous beyond measure. And when at last his earthly journey ended, he ascended to the highest heavens, where those who have mastered the art of perfect giving find their eternal home. But the tale does not end there, dear listener. For the Buddha himself, as he spoke this story to his disciples, smiled with the knowledge that comes only to those who have walked the path to its very end. In that long ago time, he said, when compassion was tested in the crucible of ultimate sacrifice, I myself was Prince Vessantara, and through that testing, I learned the secret that unlocks the door to enlightenment, that only when we give away everything, our treasures, our loved ones, our very selves, do we finally discover what cannot be lost. Listen to the wind in the leaves and hear the echo of that ancient wisdom. Feel the beat of your own heart and know that within you lies the same capacity for boundless love that transformed a prince into a Buddha. For we are all, in our deepest essence, heirs to Vessantara's kingdom, that realm where the only true treasure is the love we give away. This is the gift that transcends all gifts, the story that contains all stories. May it kindle in your heart the flame of compassion that burns away the boundaries between self and other, between lover and beloved, between the seeker and the sought. I am the Sleepless Bard, and I leave you now with this ancient blessing. May your giving be as boundless as the sky, your love as enduring as the stars, and your journey as wondrous as the path that leads from sacrifice to perfect peace.